June 6, 1944, is a day that Field Marshal Erwin Rommel has been looking forward to for a long time. It is his wife's birthday, and with the recent spell of bad weather making an Allied invasion seemingly impossible, Rommel has decided to take a short trip back home to celebrate. Intelligence reports also suggest that General Dwight D. Eisenhower, the supreme commander of the Allied Expeditionary Force, is waiting for reinforcements before launching any major attack. Confident that the invasion will not happen immediately, Rommel plans a pleasant surprise for his wife, a pair of fine Parisian shoes. However, his brief moment of relaxation is shattered in the middle of the night when his phone rings. The invasion has begun. The Nazi leadership had anticipated a large-scale Allied invasion long before the fateful day arrived. Even before the Allies convened at the Tehran Conference in 1943, Hitler and his top military strategists had been working on defensive preparations. The British commando raid on St. Nazaire and the disastrous yet informative Allied landing at Dieppe in 1942 had demonstrated that, while the Allies were not yet prepared for a full-scale invasion, they were capable of launching attacks on occupied French ports. This realization led to the construction of the Atlantic Wall, an extensive line of coastal defenses stretching from the Spanish border in the south to Norway in the north. The wall was originally concentrated around key ports, but was eventually expanded to cover a vast coastline. Rather than constructing a continuous impenetrable barrier, German engineers devised a system of strategically placed fortifications. They conscripted nearly 1 million forced laborers from France to build a network of machine gun nests, bunkers, and artillery positions along the coast. These strong points were designed with overlapping fields of fire, allowing them to cover a large area with relatively few soldiers, a necessary measure given the German army's dwindling resources by 1944. The artillery was positioned to fire along the beaches rather than out to sea, ensuring that any landing force would be caught in a deadly crossfire. In late 1943, Adolf Hitler appointed Field Marshal Erwin Rommel as the overall commander of German forces in northern France. This decision was both practical and political. Rommel, known as the Desert Fox for his brilliant tactics in North Africa, was one of Germany's most celebrated generals. His presence was meant to boost the morale of the troops and reassure the German public. Moreover, Rommel had a direct personal relationship with Hitler, allowing him to operate with some degree of independence from the traditional chain of command. Upon arriving in France, Rommel was appalled by the state of the Atlantic Wall. The best troops had been redeployed to the Eastern Front to fight the Soviets, leaving behind a mixture of inexperienced recruits, conscripts from occupied territories, and garrison troops who had grown complacent in the relative comfort of France. Additionally, Allied bombing campaigns had significantly weakened the Luftwaffe, making German air support unreliable at best. Determined to strengthen the defenses, Rommel set to work. He ordered elite units to reinforce the less experienced divisions. He had extensive minefields laid around key defensive positions, with some mines designed to jump into the air before exploding, maximizing their lethality. To hinder amphibious landings, he had thousands of wooden stakes topped with anti-tank mines planted just below the waterline at low tide. This forced potential invaders to choose between braving the mines at high tide or crossing hundreds of yards of open beach at low tide under relentless German fire. Rommel also ordered large swaths of low-lying areas to be flooded, installed poles to tear apart gliders, and positioned reserve troops inland to slow any Allied advance, buying time for a decisive counterattack. However, planning for this counterattack was fraught with difficulties. The Germans did not know exactly where the Allies would land. Fortunately for them, or so they thought, German intelligence had managed to infiltrate multiple agents into England. Reports from these agents indicated that the primary target was Pas-de-Calais, with diversionary attacks planned in Norway and, to a lesser extent, Normandy. German aerial reconnaissance seemed to confirm these reports, as it spotted the massing of Allied forces near these supposed invasion points. However, every single one of these German agents was actually a double agent working for the British. The entire deception was orchestrated by a brilliant spy known as Garbo, who fed the Germans false intelligence. Despite the uncertainty surrounding the exact location of the invasion, Rommel firmly believed that the battle would be decided on the beaches. If the Allies managed to establish a beachhead, the war would be lost. His plan was simple: The coastal defenses would slow the invaders just long enough for a rapid counterattack to push them back into the sea. However, there was a problem: control of Germany's tank reserves. Rommel wanted immediate access to the Panzer divisions, positioning them close to the coast for a swift response. However, he faced opposition from other senior officers, including Field Marshal Gerd von Rundstedt, who preferred to keep the tanks near Paris. Von Rundstedt argued that this positioning would allow flexibility in case the Allies attacked an unexpected location, while also keeping the tanks safe from naval bombardments. Rommel countered that a long drive to the coast would leave the tanks vulnerable to Allied air attacks. Hitler was called upon to settle the debate, but in his usual indecisive manner, he reached a compromise that pleased no one. He divided the Panzer reserves, granting Rommel control of only 3 divisions, while the bulk of the reserve remained near Paris and could not be deployed without Hitler's direct permission. As June 5th arrived, the weather was abysmal, and the German High Command was confident that no invasion could take place under such conditions. Many officers took the opportunity to take leave or relax. However, in the early hours of June 6th, the first paratroopers began landing behind German lines, marking the beginning of D-Day. At 5:30 a.m., German soldiers in bunkers along the Normandy coast peered out through the mist and saw an unimaginable sight: thousands of Allied ships stretching from horizon to horizon. Moments later, the deafening roar of aircraft engines filled the sky as a massive bombardment commenced. Artillery, rockets, and naval shells pounded the beaches. However, many of the bombs fell too far inland, and naval gunfire failed to significantly damage the heavily fortified German positions. As Allied landing craft neared the shore, machine guns opened fire. The American landings at Omaha Beach faced horrific resistance, with some units suffering over 90% casualties. Elsewhere, the British and Canadians made better progress, breaking through at Sword Gold and Juno beaches. The chaos on the beaches was mirrored in German command centers, where officers argued over whether and when to deploy reserves. Rommel, caught off guard while returning from his trip home, was unable to issue immediate orders. Von Rundstedt ordered the 21st Panzer to counter the British advance on Cannes, but when he attempted to move additional reserves, he was blocked. The authority to deploy them rested with Hitler, who was still asleep. No one dared wake him. By the time Hitler finally woke at noon, he was thrilled, believing this was his opportunity to crush the Allies. However, his response was slow. He did not order the reserve tanks to move until 4 p.m., by which time Allied air superiority made movement perilous. German reinforcements were delayed, and by nightfall, the Allies had secured a tenuous but crucial foothold in Normandy. Though the battle was far from over, the long road to victory had begun. Over the next 11 months, the Allies would push relentlessly forward, and for the first time, the defeat of Nazi Germany was within sight.